I wanted to welcome everyone today and first encourage you to vote. Happy Election Day. Let's make sure that you're using your civic duty opportunities well. I'm really glad that you were able to join us, and today's agenda, I wanted to make sure that we did a quick run through to make sure that you knew what you were coming into. I'm going to give you a brief history of RIT and RIT alumni relations, very brief. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Lobozzo Alumni House mission, do the virtual tour, talk a little bit about how we've been using the Alumni House currently and how we hope to use the Alumni House in the coming years. I'll also give you some preliminary information on reserving the space for your own personal or professional purposes. Again, thank you for being here. Just to give you a quick rundown on the brief history of RIT and RIT alumni relations, as you know, RIT was founded in 1829 as the Athenaeum. We then evolved to become the 1885 the Mechanics Institute, and in 1891 we became the Rochester Athenaeum and Mechanics Institute. But it wasn't until 1912 at commencement did the first Alumni Association come to being. Activity began with alumni returning to RAMI for sporting activities and the occasional alumni banquet, but by the 50s, RIT started evolving and began granting recognized degrees, and then by the time the 70s happened, over half the graduates were from outside Rochester. So the executive committee overseeing alumni activities at RIT became the National Alumni Council, which then evolved to the Alumni Network, coming full circle to become what is now known as the RIT Alumni Association. So if you're thinking about the early years of alumni relations as an entity at RIT, one of the things that we learned was that from 1936 to 1992, there was literally just one person managing all of the external activities. Primarily it was volunteers and alumni that were conducting them. At 1993, RIT sort of recognized that we needed some more help engaging our alums because they weren't necessarily connected to the Rochester Institute of Technology. They were more connected to the employers of Kodak, IBM, Bausch & Lomb, and several of the other RIT companies that were using RIT as their workforce generator. So it's more of a transactional experience for our students, and as a result, our alumni were relatively disconnected, having more loyalty to the company than to alumni relations. In 1993, RIT started to add a little more support, and you can see here the evolution in the early 2000s, where we began to increase our staff, increase our programs. We began to have a focus on the student experience so that it encouraged those attending RIT to come back and become good alumni. I believe Dr. Simone at the time dubbed our students alumni in training, and that sort of raised the relative visibility of the Alumni Relations Program. In addition, we had a team that began to do some analysis on the programs we were doing, looking at things like return on investment, but more importantly, we also conducted a massive survey of the alumni population, primarily asking two basic questions. What do we want from alumni? What do we want from them in the way of support, whether it was jobs for our students, philanthropic support, their advice, their time. But what we found out, what our alumni wanted from us, was actual solid engagement. We also found that their affinity was not necessarily towards RIT, but with college programming in general and department-specific activities. In addition, they were looking for professional development. So in the 2000s, we started to actually listen to them and begin providing them these kinds of activities Also focusing on RIT spirit, using Brick City Homecoming, highlighting the then orange and brown, and growing our chapter programming, bringing RIT to them. Now, in the last 8 years or so, we've actually used the data to become more strategic in our engagement with alumni. Truly listening to them about meaningful engagement, and those included things like being part of the university strategic plan initiatives, getting involved in campaign activity, sharing RIT in their local communities through community service, not just here nationally, but internationally. We've also noticed a huge trend in the increase of legacy families emerging. A legacy family is someone who graduated from RIT and then their children have come. And and we have a couple in the room actually who just shared that they too are legacy members. I believe the last time we took a look at it, we were increasing our legacy population from 1 to 1.5% every year for incoming students. So why not find ways of engaging them in a more meaningful way? That being said, I believe the RIT for Life program began to be involved, or we began to become more involved in RIT for Life, and that was focused on what alumni wanted in their communities, but also meeting their milestone expectations. So things like professional development is very important from an RIT for Life standpoint. Hitting birthdays, graduations, retirements, promotions, anything like that that we could recognize our alumni for and engage them in was of import. Continuing education, too, is also a very important aspect of that. Add to that a top-level layer of technical engagement with the advent of social media and the growth of sophistication in doing so. And you've pretty much got where we are right now in managing our activities and our alumni population. So what's the next step? We have this growth in alumni coming back to campus. Our campus is booming. Every couple of months, it appears there seems to be a new construction project going on. Every time alumni were coming back, they weren't quite sure what they were going to see or if they could find their way around. The three big issues that began to emerge was the number of parking tickets that alumni got. That was kind of a surprise. But you know, alumni didn't know what they didn't know, so we were trying to find ways, again, as I mentioned, to bring RIT to our alumni population. But all we did was convince them that they needed to return to campus, which was wonderful, and they had a great experience until they get back to their car, and there would be a ticket. They'd be coming for meetings that were actually difficult to get to. Events were not as easily accessible as we needed them to be, and when they looked for the Alumni Relations Office, we were in a food court and down the hall from the bathroom. It wasn't really an optimal setup for engaging returning graduates. So we started thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had a welcome center? And basically, after we pitched the idea in May of 2001, and everyone thought it was a great idea, we continued to ask for it because every year it would start at the top of priorities during budget hearings and then end up at the bottom of the list as more important requests were being made from an academic standpoint. Totally understandable. So for 15 years or so, we asked, and finally they said yes, and they gave us a budget of $2.1 million and with a condition, which basically was, we're going to do this and you have to raise the money from alumni. So this is truly an alumni project. This is truly a space for alumni by alumni. So before we get into the virtual tour, I just wanted to share how wonderful all of our Tigers are in supporting this project. And I want to say thank you because of the $2.1 million goal, we've raised just over $2.01 million with about $86,000 left to close out the construction, which is fabulous. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. The endowment is the opportunity to continue engaging our alumni in the development of the Alumni House, and this fund will spin off 5% of the total and help us offset the operating costs, so we aren't tapping into RIT operating dollars. I believe a very large percentage of those operating dollars are generated by tuition, so we really want to focus on it in that aspect. So again, our thank you to our donors, and let's talk a little bit about the mission of the house. When we engaged our Alumni Association Board of Directors, several of our chapters and discussions, and some of our friends and parents in talking about what we wanted the Alumni House to be, this is the mission that was developed. And while you all can read it, I can also tell you that the vision that accompanied it was that we aimed to provide the friendliest, the most engaging, primarily service-oriented atmosphere possible, so that it led to creating warm, lifelong relationships with our alums. So it wasn't this continuation of a transactional experience. We truly are using the Alumni House to make those relationships happen and continue. All righty, let's get right into the virtual tour. I'd like to introduce you to Joseph M. Lobozzo. The house is named after him because of the enormous support that he's provided not only for the construction costs but for the programming and activity. Over the past several years, he's been involved in our Alumni Relations program, offering advice that has been much appreciated and very much welcome. So this is what the Alumni House looked like 1 year ago, October 2017, and this is what it looks like today. It literally was from the initial groundbreaking on October 18th. We managed to be fully constructed by Brick City Homecoming, so it literally was a year. I want to preface all of this by saying that the slides that you're going to be seeing are not a completed house. We still have one step to go, and that is loading in alumni and student artwork to populate the walls. But for the rest of it, it's pretty well in place, and what you see is what you'll most likely see when you arrive. So welcome to the house. When you enter the campus, each of the 9 entrances have directional signs, and they now have Lobozzo Alumni House. Head to the left or head to the right. The Lobozzo Alumni House is directly off Andrews Memorial Drive. If you're heading south on Andrews Drive, you'll pass the red barn on your left. You go up to the hill, and it'll be your first right. And these are these images are pretty much replicating what you will see. Pretty happy that the sign ended up there. It makes it a little easier to find. When you park your car, we have 50 parking spots, 2 of which are handicapped, and we're also pre-wired for electrical hookup someday soon when we get those chargers in place. When you park your car, though, however, access to the house is easy. We have 2 fabulous donor families, the Chiappone family that named the walkway heading up to the front door and the garden of the Lobozzo Alumni House, and the Marion walkway, which heads to the back end, primarily towards the patio. that you don't see at all from the road. So it's quite a surprise when you lay eyes on it. So thanks to the Chiappone and Marion walkways, these are very wide, easily accessible, easily cleared for snow removal. Again, it was about ease of access to the building. I'd like to say thanks to Tom Hersted, who is from Regal Lighting. Tom is an alum from 1985. He was a member of the NCAA championship hockey team and didn't actually graduate at that time, had to leave for personal reasons. And when the Alumni House came about, and he happened to be on campus just checking it out not too many years ago, we engaged him, and we managed to help him earn his degree and finish it out. He was missing one class, so he is now a happy, happy tiger, graduating from class of 2017. He also is involved. He wrote a book called Love, Care, and Share, and it's been picked up for production and is going to be made into a movie. His company, Regal Lighting, is out of Canada, and when he saw the Lobozzo Alumni House project, he said, I know exactly what you need. I know exactly what you need. And he wanted to provide all of the exterior lighting so it was unique to the building and the building design. And it really is quite lovely in the evening when you drive past. I'd like to stick with the outside for just a little bit. This is Scott Hecker, and he has named the garden, which I'm afraid looks a little sad right now because it is fall and our plantings are sort of going into
dormancy.
Dormancy, thank you. They are going into dormancy. We're trying to add a little color here and there with seasonal plantings and potted material. But it is a spectacular space with a couple of wonderful features. The primary feature here is a Paley sculpture. It was donated by Ann Mulligan, a former trustee of RIT, and it was actually originated as a gift to her mother, Charlotte, and when her mother passed away, Ann had it out in front of her house on East Avenue, and so it may be recognizable to some of you Rochesterians who may be online right now. When Ann passed away, we got the Paley lamp, and it sat for a while in RIT storage as we tried to figure out what to use for it. And when the evolution of the Alumni House was being brought about, it just seemed to be a natural fit for the garden, and as you can see, it looks fabulous. We've been calling it the Alumni Beacon. It goes on at dusk and off at dawn, and it just really adds so much to the outside atmosphere. In addition to the garden setup, it's surrounded by pavers that have been donated by a variety of alumni, faculty, staff, students, student groups. It's pretty wonderful. There's 240 of them, and we sold nearly 100 of them, so there is some left for purchase if you're interested. But I wanted to share some of my favorite ones. The dragon is pretty outstanding. I didn't want people to think that they were limited just to a 6-line, 14-character space. Our engraver, who happens to be an RIT alum as well, and from Rochester, started to experiment with some of the requests we were getting and found that he could do special and unique or unusual requests as well. So we have Dragon from Amy and Glenn Dragon, and when I asked if they wanted their names and class years on there too, they basically told me that the dragon spoke for itself, and so I love the dragon. In addition, 8-beat measure was a really wonderful way to engage our alumni from the men's a cappella group who wanted to have a presence on the property, and this was a great way to do it. We also have fraternities and sororities and just individuals thanking RIT and Joe for the education and for the space. My second favorite, though, is I'm going to fight science with wood, because how often do you see something like that? Knowing full well that we are well known for our science and for our fine arts. At the top of the house, before we head inside, I wanted to make sure that you were aware that our architect, Jim Yarrington, he's also our architect designer, I guess, if you will. He commissioned a current student last year by the name of Kai-Buk Soon, and Kai-Buk was working on his MFA, and Jim went to him and commissioned this piece to be part of his portfolio, purchased it, and then donated it to the Lobozzo Alumni House. It is actually a Weathervane named Stripes, and it is 8 feet tall, about 5.5 feet, 6 feet wide, pretty hefty. A goodly portion of it is below the roof line, but it's pretty wonderful, very noticeable on a sunny day. On a gray day, it looks like a ghost of a tiger. It's really kind of interesting, some of the effects that are, excuse me, that are occurring. And the reflection on the copper roof is pretty spectacular on a sunny day. So make sure you wave at Stripes when you pull into the parking lot. Now, moving from the exterior to the interior, I've highlighted the Blonski Vestibule because it's the one part of the house that's open 24/7. We didn't want to lock it because we wanted a welcoming space for alumni to come to campus no matter what time of day or night it happened to be. So you come, you park, you head in there, and we've got the latest, greatest publications for you. And soon we'll have some additional information about the house out there, and contact information for actually accessing the house. Moving into the building, we have the Maginness Welcome Center. You can see the Blonski Vestibule from on the right-hand side, so you can see what it would be like moving into the Maginness Welcome Center. We've got a couple of comfortable seats for those waiting for meetings or people who just want to hang out and have a cup of tea. That's happened already a few times. It also gives you directional information about where things are in the house. And this is basically how I have structured this presentation, so you sort of know what direction we'll be going with. We'll be starting at the bottom and working our way up. The orange silk flowers, there's just a funny little story about that, which is we've engaged a number of vendors in support of the project. Yes, we hire them, but also they've donated a number of pieces of the Lobozzo Alumni House in order to make this happen. When we engage vendors regarding furniture, because of the number of alums that we have working at those companies, because of the relationship that they have with RIT, we were able to get pieces that you normally wouldn't get for the prices that we did. And this one in particular, the vendor was so taken with the team that went to see him to talk about design and types of furnishings, that when he delivered him, he brought this as a housewarming gift for us, and we couldn't think of a nicer piece. So I just wanted to share that with you. Here's a wider angle view of the Welcome Center and the Blonski Vestibule. If you see the welcome desk, behind it are some windowed shelving. We hope to have some merchandising occurring there in the coming months. We still have yet to populate it, but there are a few wonderful pieces in there now, historic in nature, that we're sharing with the public as they come. But the welcome desk is where you'll be able to get most of your answers, or your questions to your answers. And the door to the welcome desk, it leads into the Bjorness office suite. Now this is the opposite angle looking south, and the areas heading down that hallway are our smaller, more intimate meeting areas. Also in the Welcome Center, we have what I'm referring to as the virtual concierge. The virtual concierge is actually a touchscreen window that provides welcome messages to individuals or groups that are coming into the house at the top of the screen. But the middle of the screen is actually a map of the RIT campus. And using your finger, you can click on a building. The building information pops up listing everything that is in there, including activities, departments, events, photos, in some cases floor plans, but most importantly, it will provide you directions from the Alumni House to there so that you've got some ease of access across campus. In addition, we've added some PowerPoint presentations representing some fun activities in the Finger Lakes, including vineyards and restaurants and museums. A welcome center would not be complete without a coat room. I'm sharing the coat room because we specifically designed it to fit the purpose of the building, which is welcoming people. You go into the coat room, you hang up your coat, you leave your boots, your umbrella, whatever it happens to be, but it is very handicapped accessible. We find that a lot of coat rooms were not easily accessible, and in addition to that, we designed it so that you go into the coat room and then you keep moving and hook a left, and when you come out on the other end, you're at the actual restrooms where you can freshen up before entering your event or heading to your meeting. So if we go back a little bit to the Bjorness office suite, the Bjorness office suite was so named in honor of Bjorness by a gentleman who would really like to remain anonymous, but he did donate all of the heating and cooling in the house. So as you can see, this really truly was built by alumni, both philanthropic financial donations, but also by equipment and furnishings. And I'm giving you two shots here of our highest traveling. We actually have two more. This is an office suite that holds 6 people, and they're our highest travelers on the team. So what you're looking at is our chapter programs. These are the folks that travel around the country doing events and activities and providing engagement and bringing RIT to alumni, and our leadership giving team. Their desks are generally empty, but when they are there, we've designed them so that they are all ergonomically accessible. And thanks to Merkel Donahue for actually helping us design this space to provide that sort of comfort. In addition, in the suite, we have the Reed Executive Office, and this executive office is where you can find me sometimes. I'm there. Otherwise, I'm sort of running about the entire building. I wanted to share this because Ken Reed, a graduate of class of 71, started as president of the Alumni Association the same day I started at RIT 17.5 years ago, and he thought it would be a wonderful tribute to the Alumni Association to actually name my office, which I thought was wonderful. Now, in the office is something very specific. It's a Tiger touch lamp. It's in the window and on all the time, because I want people to think about Tiger spirit every time they're walking into the building. This is the first thing you see from the bay window walking in. It was actually a gift made to Dr. Dessler from the Chicago Alumni Club nearly 11 years ago. And Dr. Dessler gave it to me to bring back to campus to get back to his office. And I sort of became attached to it, literally and figuratively, and it's been with me for 11.5 years. And whenever Dr. Dessler walks into my office, he basically asked when that was going to show up in his office. And now he's been there once and said hello to it again, asking when he was going to get it. We're in negotiations at the moment. Anyway, it's just a nice reminder that we are the RIT Tigers and that all Tigers are welcome at the Lobozzo Alumni House. Now let's get into the really fun stuff. We expect alumni to come back to campus and speak to our students, give lectures, get engaged in advisory boards or governing boards, And when they're back on campus, sometimes it's been difficult for them to find a little peace and quiet and some space to actually get work done. And the Shoemaker Business Center does exactly that. And it's also an opportunity for those alums who are looking for professional development to have a space to meet career services professionals, to work on their resume, to conduct mock interviews, to do lead generation. This gives them their own space to actually get that done. And as I mentioned, the art will be coming in soon, probably the next couple of weeks, so it won't look quite as stark, but we also don't want to make it look overcrowded. We want people to be able to focus. That's just another view. And a close-up of the big black box on the left. These are some technological surprises that are in the room. It is actually a supercharger that doubles as a hotel lockbox. So when you open it, there's USB ports and electrical accessibility, electrical outlets to charge your phone, your iPad, your computer. The computers that are in there are actually touch screen. So if your phone needs charging, you put it in there, you lock it up, you walk away, get some work done, and then you've got a 4-digit code to access it and retrieve it. In addition, the Shoemaker Business Center shares with the Maginness Welcome Center a wall, and the wall is made up of the 3 windows, one with the touchscreen that we talked about, the touchscreen wayfinder, but also 2 windows that have privacy glass installed. So if you are working in the Shoemaker Business Center, all you have to do is flick a switch and the windows go opaque. Some of you may have seen that already, but for a lot of folks, it's a complete surprise and kind of fun to watch when they first see it. So now we're going to be heading south down that longer hallway for some of the more intimate spaces. This is the Fran and Diane Domoy Library for alumni, and it's very important to Fran, who's a former chair of the Hospitality and Travel and Tourism Department, that alumni had a welcoming, comfortable, warm, engaging space. And while the rest of the house is pretty easily rentable and designed for events and meetings and activities, the Business Center and Fran's Domoy's Library will always be open. They won't necessarily be rentable because we want a place for alumni, no matter when they come, to feel comfortable, relax, get acclimated. We don't want to have to say, sorry, there's a private event going on. So again, it's about accessibility, and Fran Domoy was very much a part of that. He was also a part of the building of the relationship with the Dominican Republic, Croatia, and Kosovo, and a huge proponent for RIT going international with their program. So you'll see an evolution of this library in the coming months as he begins to share the material that he's picked up in a variety of different countries, traveling internationally on RIT's behalf, and sharing it with all of you. So there'll be some imagery, there'll be some artwork that we'll be sharing with you, in addition to the yearbooks that are in there. This is a wider view of the library, and the opposite view back out to the hallway. And if you go out that door and turn to the left, you can see the hallway that will lead to this room, which is the Bud Rusitzky meeting room. For those of you that don't know Bud Rusitzky, he is a current trustee of the RIT governing board, and he's also a past president of the National Alumni Council and an advocate for alumni for decades. He wanted to leave his mark with the Lobozzo Alumni House because he felt that so much of the activity that's occurring for alumni happened with smaller groups of individuals. And so he wanted to do a meeting room where those talks could continue very comfortably. He was also interested in making sure that we had access to alumni all over the world, so that technology and the ability to do that is also included in the design of the room. This too has the privacy glass, so if you have an open meeting, that's fine. If you would like a little bit of privacy, you have that capability. The technology in the Rusitzky meeting room ranges from the ability of casting from your phone, your computer, your iPad, to the monitor on the wall, to streaming off of Roku, to a whiteboard where you can take notes and actually have them stored on your shared drive, and emailed if need be to the participants, and to video conferencing, which again is about the engagement of our alumni that are not necessarily in the Rochester area. This gives you the capability of holding events online if need be. And I wanted to share these images with you because while I feel that I'm pretty adept at working technology, I am by no means an expert, and I get lost and break things all the time. I've tried to break this and haven't been able to. It's basically, there's your screen, you've connected to it, or you don't even have to connect to it. You click on the bottom left corner of the program offerings, you touch blue jeans, and this is the first thing you see. So it's automatic, it loads, there's no fiddling with wires or things like that and making sure that you're connected. It just happens like magic. If you go further down the hallway, we have everyone's favorite room in the house, the Jim and Audrey Janicki Conservatory. Jim's been a member of the Alumni Association Board for over 15 years, and he wanted a unique space in the house. This unique space is operated only by a fan and the windows, and has no heat or cooling. So in essence, it's a 3-season room. I'm actually tracking participation in it, and right now we're averaging a 2.7 season room. It's been a little chilly the last couple of weeks, but the great thing is that is a door that leads out to another event space that we'll be talking about in a few minutes. So connecting these two together when you're hosting an event for up to 14 people is pretty easy. I actually have the capability of seating for 14, but you can fit about 20 in there very comfortably. When you're coming back out of that room, on the left hand is basically our mechanical room. And normally I wouldn't highlight this in a tour, except the story behind the sign you see is pretty nice. Kim Slusser is our Associate Vice President for Alumni Parent and Annual Giving, and her husband turned 65, and what do you get? A guy who's retired and happy and doesn't really need much of anything, is proud of his RIT degree, and this is what she gave him as his 65th birthday present. It started off as the Lobozzo Alumni House mechanical room, but she said if we could change it to his degree name, then she would like to do that. And I thought, if you actually want to buy a mechanical room to do that, I'm going to name it whatever you'd like. And John M. Slusser, class of 75, proud Tiger, it's now the Slusser Electrical and Engineering Room. I thought it was a great idea. Unique, but great. Now, let's head down into our primary event space. Hall dining room actually was completely decorated by Kim Slusser. It's named after, in honor of Brian and Linda Hall, and since they're primarily from Denver or outside of Denver and the Arizona area, Kim went with some rustic feel, but it was a very high-end, polished, rustic feel. This too will have alumni artwork in it. It's perfect for small, intimate meetings up to 10 or 12 people, dinners, meals. It's a lovely, lovely space. Across the hall, you can see the hall dining room through the Buckingham entry doors on the left-hand photo. But if you cross the hall, you end up in the Buckingham Lounge. I have the picture of the Buckingham Lounge devoid of humans, and then I have the Buckingham Lounge full of the Alumni Association board members. I'm just sharing that to give you a scale. I've got seating in there for 12 to 14 people, depends on who likes to sit on hassocks and who doesn't. But the space itself can very comfortably fit 25 for a reception or discussion group. We've even had a book club meet in there already. It was pretty interesting. This is the wide-angle view of it, and as you can see, there is a door that heads outside on purpose. We also have some very specific and significant pieces in the Buckingham Lounge. Let's hit those right here. Here's another view from the door heading outside. This is the fireplace. It was donated by Gamma Epsilon Tau. They basically got their alumni members together and said, we want to be recognized at the house, and wanted to do something significant, and so now we have a fabulous gas fireplace. In addition to the fireplace, hanging above the mantel is a piece of what I refer to as hidden technology. The mirror here in the Buckingham Lounge is also television and has guest ports that we are able to provide presentations on. And the sound system there is a Bluetooth sound system, so if you are hosting an event or a small gathering, then you have the capability of playing your own song list or asking us to play something for you. Who knew that RIT alumni like smooth jazz, although there has been a small pocket of 80s music desired, which made for some pretty fun times in there. I wanted to share with you one of the highlights of the room, and one of the things that we used to actually design the space in the for the lounge is, in addition to the Paley sculpture in the garden, the Hecker Garden, Ann Mulligan also donated a clock from the, we think, late 1800s, early 1900s. It's from Waltham, Mass., and I know that it was a German immigrant who made it in the European style. We have contacted a clock specialist who came in to assess whether or not we could get it working, and the good news is that she'll be back to make sure it's working more than just twice a day. Everything is in really good shape. There's some minor structural damage that I'll be speaking with the Fine Arts Department to assist us in restoring. And then she says there's just one chime that is completely off. So when she tested it and it went off, it literally rang beautifully, and we can't wait for it to happen every hour on the hour when it does start working. In addition to those pieces, we designed the Buckingham Lounge around the Kevin and Erica Surace Bar for convenience of on-site receptions. So RIT Catering wasn't worried about setting up tables, taking down tables, and trying to sneak a bar in spaces that it just didn't fit. So we decided to build one right in there, and thank you to Kevin and Erica for making that possible. To support the RIT Catering team in their activities at the house, we brought them in during the planning stages of the building design, and they helped us design the dream catering kitchen. These guys are amazing. They work all over campus constantly, day in, day out. They do events for 10 people. They do events for 10,000 when Brick City Homecoming comes around. And usually they get an 8-foot table and a blue curtain screen to make their magic from, but this time they've got a wonderful space, and the things that are coming out of it are just fabulous, and the people who have visited the house are incredibly grateful to be able to have this space. The last space inside the house I wanted to share was the Alumni Association Boardroom. Now, this is our primary event space, And I wanted to let you know that it's called the Alumni Association Boardroom, not because the Alumni Association Board of Directors meets there, but because the 2016 seated board members all pooled their annual fund gifts together to be able to name the space the Alumni Association Boardroom. Pretty amazing initiative because it was a considerable investment, and to see the finished product is fabulous. So this room has a capability of seating 72 people, 8 people at 60-inch rounds for a meeting. I suggest that if you're going to host a meal there, I wouldn't top out more than 64, just to give people, additional space for moving around during that period. We were very conscientious and deliberate about how we outfitted this room. We use tables that actually convert from 60-inch rounds to 42-inch squares so that we have the flexibility of designing an event that suits every possible need. So we set the tables like this so that you could see that on the right-hand side, we've got a capability of putting a buffet table. We can host dinners in here for 12 people and still make it look pretty full, and then host dinners up to 64 and make it look comfortable and spacious. So it truly is a flexible space. We also designed the chairs larger and more comfortable than the average chair that you get, so sitting for longer meetings, day-long retreats, corporate meetings, workshops, lectures, seminars, they're very comfortable. You don't even actually know you've been in there all day long. As far as technology in the room, very much like the Rusitzky meeting room, except that we have two 70-inch monitors, one on the left side of the room facing west and one on the right side facing west. You connect to them wirelessly through Intel Unite, but we also have the capability of hardwiring you because we do know that some of our speakers are precluded from connecting wirelessly by their company policy. So we wanted to make sure that we had backups for everyone who walked in the door. The podium is electrified as well. You can just plug in for data and access your campus files. If you're an on-campus presenter, if you're an off-campus presenter, again, you can connect wirelessly or hardwired. We do have a sound system that is mirrored from the Alumni Association boardroom out to the patio, so if you have an event going on and there's speeches or presentations and you're enjoying the patio so much that you don't want to go back in the room, you can still hear everything and not miss anything. Back to the podium, the mic, I went to reset the podium for the next event, and Dr. Munson had just walked away, and so you can see that the mic was set for him. We got an extra long one for our president. The person who took the photo just thought it was amusing, the placement of such. So a last piece about the interior is the art walls. We also basically offered up art walls so people could ensure that alumni art would be displayed, whether it was photos, paintings, wood, metal, fabric. We, as I mentioned, have not completely loaded the house in, but in the Rusitzky room we do have a Carl Chiarenza photograph. Carl is a classmate of Bud's, and when he heard he had the room, he wanted to make sure that there was some nice artwork. We'll be loading in the artwork over the next couple of weeks, also including artwork from the archives. As you can see, that is a sweater from the blue and gray tech men from the late 40s, before we became the Tigers. So we'd like to see some unique pieces like that included as well throughout the house. The RIT Anime Club, too, purchased a wall because they wanted to ensure that we were going to be sharing current student artwork with our visitors as well. The LeChase Construction Alumni Patio is a fabulous piece donated by LeChase. in honor of all of their employees who have attended RIT. We have more than 60 plus past, current, and future, meaning co-op, RIT Tigers working at LeChase. And they wanted to honor them and the relationship that they have built with RIT over the years. So the RIT Alumni House is 5,700 square feet. The patio itself is about 3,200 square feet. Little did LeChase know that it was going to double our capabilities of our offerings to alumni. We opened very quietly with a private ribbon cutting for Joe Lobozzo and his family. We did that in early September, and that same week the president hosted his opening day remarks to faculty and staff, letting them know that we had opened. We were actually still working on the back-end systems in order to accept reservations online, and the word got out, and within 2 weeks, we ended up having over 60 requests or inquiries about the house. So before we actually officially opened to the public, as you can see, a number of them are in-house events and activities that were requested by our faculty and staff. We're starting to get inquiries from alumni as the word is getting out. We are still putting in place our systems, but I'm sharing this because I wanted to let you know that, yeah, we're already getting inquiries for spring, and I anticipate this filling up rather quickly. As a result of all of these wonderful events and activities, we're still playing a little catch-up in getting our site up and running online, but that won't preclude you from actually reserving space as we do a little catch-up on that portion of the operation. So some of the things that we've done, you saw the list of them, but I wanted to share a couple of the more fun ones for us and colorful. In the Alumni Association boardroom, we've held some stewardship events thanking our donors. At the bottom right-hand corner is a reunion of the Computer House alumni from the 80s. You can't tell from that picture there, but it was about 35 degrees out, and they were around the LeChase fire pit and refusing to go back inside because it was so much fun and festive. There was music playing, the fire pit was going, and everybody was able to actually have conversations with each other. It was quite pleasurable. In addition to that, we're already including RIT for Life milestone activities. We've booked a couple of retirements and surprise birthday events for some of our alums and our faculty and staff. We anticipate holding monthly events such as networking series for our students and alumni. We really want to see the two populations sort of coming together in that space. And we also hope to offer things like classes without quizzes and monthly events that are highlighting alumni and their expertise, whether it's cooking or politics, whatever it happens to be. We want to be able to be hosting educational events in there as well. For reserving the space, it's pretty easy. Basically, you send an email to alumnihouse@rit.edu. When we get our website up and ready, it'll be even easier. But until then, from now until December 21st, this is the price listing. The top half of it is our public listing for non-faculty, staff, alumni, student entities. And then at the bottom is for our faculty, staff, and alumni, our campus community, including students. So if you go to the far right, we're offering a special discount of 30% of the current rate for half day and full day. And then if you have an event for after January and want to book now for it, you'll get 25% off the current rates for the half day and about approximately 25% for the full day. Do know that after December 21st that the prices will be increasing. These were the introductory rates to actually do some soft opening and public offering before we went completely live online. The directions are right there. I look forward to hearing from you. My contact information is here as well. The phone number is very easy to remember. It's 47JMLAH, the Joseph M. Lobozzo Alumni House. So that's one way of remembering it, and the email is also very easy to recall. Lastly, I just want to say thanks to the Wallace Center for supplying some imagery. In addition to this presentation, we'll be hosting a link to additional photos from the house and from the archives that you'll be able to see. I couldn't get everything in here in an hour discussion. I wanted to say thank you to our Tiger donors, our first friends who actually helped make a dream become a reality, the folks that actually pulled the house together, BLM Construction, and our architect and designer, Jim Yarrington, and there's Kim Slusser at the bottom with our external architect, Peter Rutzer. Great folks, wonderful team to work to pull this fabulous project. And the last two slides that I've got here for you are to say thank you to Mike Dybus, class of 1983, who since November have gone to the Alumni House construction site pretty much every weekend and documented photographically the evolution of the house for the RIT archive and for presentations like this. In addition, I want to say thanks to Elizabeth Lamarck. She too has been taking photographs at our events that I was able to use in this presentation. She's pretty wonderful. I want to thank all of you for being here today, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions or would like to see the tour, have a tour in person. Thanks.